Hello.
He said keys, so I didn't know if I was gonna say it. Richard, you're it.
All right.
Richard, help me.
All right. Well, hello and welcome everyone to the Showrunner Showcase. I had something planned, but Keys has started talking. But today we are going to be doing some very exciting games. We have two games that Keizaron is very knowledgeable on: Tetris 99, as well as Pokemon Crystal Rando Bingo. Is that correct, Keys?
Randomizor Cinco Bingo specifically.
Okay.
Cinco means 5 in Spanish.
But the key thing is you are experienced in Tetris, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, yeah. So you know everything about this game, right?
Right.
All right. Could you explain what's going on right now, by any chance?
So, the goal of Tetris is you're moving to a brand new city, and you can only afford one rental truck.
All right. I'll help you out here. All right. So I'm just gonna change the theme a bit. I think maybe this will help you out.
Oh boy, I'm excited for new themes.
All right, so we're going to be playing 999 line mode.
There's a Pokemon thing? That's cool.
Yeah, so, you can see I have 999 points here, Keys. How do you think you access 999 line mode?
By being really good at the game.
Nope, you just have to buy it.
Oh, what?
But, yeah, so this mode here is 999 line mode, and we are going to get started when this countdown reaches 0. So Railcoon, you can start it basically right when it says ready to go.
Oh, the shapes are colored too. Very good.
Yeah, so today I'm also joined with Blink, who's much better at Tetris than I am. How are you doing today, Blink?
Hey, what's up? Good to be here.
Blink, also known as Hard Drop, he is the creator of the Hard Drop community. Very active Tetris community on Twitch and otherwise.
Yeah, we've been around for about a little over 10 years now, and I've been lucky enough to do a couple of speedruns for GDQ in the past as well, for Tetris Effect and this game, Tetris.
Now, as someone who, obviously I'm really good at Tetris, but, for those of us at home that have no experience with Tetris at all, can we kind of talk about why we build up as much as we do before we, clear out lines and stuff?
For sure. Do you want to cover that, Richard, or do you want me to answer that? Okay, sure. So, in Tetris 99 marathon mode, obviously the goal of this mode is to clear 999 lines in order to complete it. And the reason that you want to stack up and clear 4 lines at a time, also known as a Tetris, like you're seeing Richard doing now, when he gets those eyepieces, those teal-colored eyepieces, is that you're reducing the line clear delay that you go through. Because each time you clear 4 lines, watch as he's doing it, there's like a quarter of a second or half a second of delay that you're going through. So if you're speedrunning this game like Richard's doing today, then obviously you want to reduce how much line clear delay you go through. So you stack up higher and you clear as many Tetrises as possible. Otherwise, you're going through, like if he was to clear single lines over and over and over again, he's going through a lot of that line clear delay.
I see. I also didn't know that 4 lines was actually like a terminology thing. I didn't realize that was a Tetris.
Yeah, it is. So clearing 1 line would be a single, clearing 2 is a double, clearing 3 is a triple. Those are pretty straightforward. But then clearing 4 lines is a Tetris. And there's a couple of
figure out the word for quadruple, so they were just like.
So Richard, aside from that, what is your what's the strategy you're going for right now?
My current strategy is make sure that I can just clear a bunch of lines as best as I can. I had a few mistakes because I'm probably just not warmed up. This is a pretty mechanically demanding game. Sometimes you just gotta get warmed up.
No, I hear you. Not just that, but talking at the same time as playing is a lot trickier than people think. It takes a lot of practice. Which, speaking of which, did you do anything like special to prepare for this run?
Yeah. So something that I will usually do, you know, if I have a few spare minutes, is I'll just play some Tetris, just, you know, warm up my hands, stuff like that. I find it to be like a pretty relaxing game overall, even though it is, you know, kind of mechanically demanding. It's just something that, you know, unless I'm going to try to be super fast, which most of the time I'm not trying to. I just play it for fun.
This is you not going super fast?
I mean, I'm trying to go kind of as fast as I can, but it's not like...
Yeah, it's quick.
There are other modes that you can play in other Tetris games, such as sprint mode, which is you try to clear 40 lines as fast as possible. But actually, one of the most common places for me to play 999 line mode is on an airplane. So if I have, like, you know, however long of a flight I have.
Yeah, in-flight Tetris, right? That's the name of the game? In-flight Tetris? Yeah, I've seen that game, actually.
You can actually just play... Well, I just play with this on my Switch. Because that makes the flight go by pretty fast, because it's like, oh, I just need to play this 6 times, and then I'm at my destination.
That's how you convert it. How many games of in-flight Tetris will it take to get there?
Exactly.
Bullying the other passenger. So I'm seeing something called a level here on the right side, underneath the overall time. Could you explain a little bit about levels on this mode?
Yeah, so every 10 lines that you clear increases the amount of levels by 1, and as you progress through each of the levels, your speed will gradually increase until it gets to the point where the pieces are dropping very quickly. Not exactly instantly. There is still some time before the pieces actually lock for you to be able to put where your piece is, but yeah.
Oh, so it's like the gravity, like how quickly the pieces fall down.
Yeah.
See, I find it funny that you said that you find this relaxing to play, because seeing you stack up blocks, since I'm such a casual with it, is like stressing me out.
Don't stress out, Keys. You have a run coming up next. You really gotta start thinking about that. You really had to put your priorities straight here.
But anyway, to anyone who has been tuned in for a little bit or is just now tuning in, if you don't know what's going on, this is the Showrunner Showcase. This is one of our Hotfix shows that we do on the first Saturday of every month. Anybody who is involved with running some of these Hotfix shows is usually who we have on here, and we want to show you guys what we like to play. So Richard is in charge of a lot of different things. He also helps me with my show, The First Step, and he's really good at Tetris, so he's showing off Tetris. And after his, you know, stressing me out thing, I'll stress myself out with Pokemon, because what a surprise, Keizaron plays Pokemon.
And, you know, I want to show that, you know, you don't have to be an expert to, you know, just start out speedrunning, like what Keys does on The First Step. You know, if you just like playing a game like Tetris, just keep playing it for a while. Just a little bit about my history with playing Tetris. I actually, you know, I played Tetris when I was like a kid and stuff, just like on the computer, you know, in computer lab with like friends at school, stuff like that, and also, you know, on your calculator when you're, you know, a youngin'. But
as youngins do.
When I started learning more about Tetris, it was actually due to 2 different factors. If anyone's familiar with StarCraft or StarCraft 2, actually, there's a forum. that was formerly TeamLiquid.net, is TL.net now. But there was someone that had a 10,000th post, and he talked about this thing called ST stacking, which was like a way for you to like set up T-spins pretty much indefinitely, which was really interesting to me because at the time I was playing Tetris with one of my college friends, and he would always beat me. He was always faster than I was. And I was like, how do I beat my friends in Tetris? And I was like, I should maybe learn how to do this. Because we would always play on this site called Tetris Friends. And we would just like play for like a long time until, you know, our hands got tired. But then I started, you know, playing more. And I was like, oh, this is fun. But yeah, there's so many different places that like Tetris has appeared over the years, and Blink, I don't know if you can kind of talk about the community aspect, how like the community has grown into like all these different like games.
The community, yeah. Tetris is probably one of those games you can see on every single platform there is. Like every single console pretty much has one variant, or maybe more than one variant of Tetris. So the community has actually been growing substantially the past 2-3 years, with the Tetris 99 coming out, bringing in a lot of new faces, but as well as the growth of classic NES Tetris. That's another one that's been blowing up lately with huge tournaments every single year, such as the classic Tetris World Championship. They actually just expanded over into Japan for this year, for 2020. But yeah, that's an international tournament, as well as games that have already died but also helped grow the community, like Tetris Friends, that got Richard into the game. So Tetris community covers like multiplayer Tetris, classic single player Tetris. There's games like Tetris Effect that also brought in a lot of players. In fact, I think Tetris Effect is being speedrun at later this month in Frame Fatalis by Kirby, right?
Yep, that's right. Frame Fatales will have Journey Mode Expert, which I believe is actually the category that you ran at SGDQ.
Oh, she's doing the same run, the same mode. Oh, okay, awesome. I knew she was running. I didn't know which mode she was running, but I'm totally looking forward to that. You said February 23rd, right?
Yeah, the event starts on February 23rd. I believe that run will be on the Thursday or something. If you want, you can go to gamesdonequick.com/framefatales for more information.
Awesome. But yeah, it's pretty amazing to see, because Tetris is one of those games that's been around for over 25 years, and it's continuing to stay popular. And not just that, but it's starting to thrive now with competition, and kind of excited to see what Tetris game comes out next, especially for multiplayer PC with the shutdown of Tetris Friends. There's like a large void right there that's missing, and I think we're pretty much due for even another new Tetris game.
So Keys, could you describe to us some of the Pokemon on the side and which ones we may see in your run that are coming up later?
Oh, yeah, certainly. So, well, there's a lot that's blocked off by your score, because your score is getting massive. I would say you're probably going to see maybe like 4 of those at most.
All right, not bad.
So we got a Mawile from the left. We got a Mawile, which isn't in my game. Got a Tyranitar. Can't tell what the heck that is. I think that's a Wimpod. Corviknight. Yeah, you're going to see like basically none of this. So if you like Sword and Shield, and you missed your chance at me playing Sword and Shield on Richard's new show.
Yeah, on Testing Grounds.
On Testing Grounds. Then I was about to say Tournament Grounds for some reason. Then yeah, you're not gonna see most of these, so don't get your hopes up.
But you actually play a large assortment of Pokemon games, don't you, Keys?
I sure do, and I lose track of what Pokemon's in what half the time. It's a handful. Now, this has absolutely no good segue at this point in time, but I guess you use your hands to wield a shovel. So I guess that's my chance to mention that this Monday, Shovel Night is going to be on Community Spotlight at 8 p.m. Eastern, so be sure to tune in for that.
Smooth.
Yeah, let's go with that.
You know, we're just digging up these blocks at the bottom, removing them from the board. I think that's a pretty good.
There you go. Oh, one of the games I forgot to mention earlier, I was talking about like classic Tetris and modern Tetris, but actually the creators of this game are Arika, and they are the creators of the TGM series, Tetris Grandmaster, the arcade version of Tetris that you play with the joystick, with similar like incredibly fast gravity as you progress in levels. Now I'm starting to see the gravity pick up a little bit here, and I'm just wondering, does that change your strategy at all, Rich?
For right now, it doesn't really affect me, because you're still kind of just dropping pieces down when they get into the spot that you want them to be in. It will start affecting me later with where I end up placing my pieces, but right now, it's still pretty slow. So, again, very relaxing. Just gotta get pieces in.
Therapeutic, almost.
If you miss placing a piece somewhere, though, then that's when the alarm bells start going off.
So I do see that you are constantly keeping your, like, where you put your eyepieces to the right side of the field. Is that your strategy? Like, that's on purpose?
Yeah, so, you know, there's something that I learned at your run, actually. There's 6-3 stacking, which I am not very great at, but for me, it's very consistent to get, you know, a well over towards that right side, and be able to clear it. But, you know, with something like 6-3, I'm gonna try to set it up. But the idea of 6-3 is that you want to have, and Blink, you can correct me if, you know, I am speaking out of line, but
sure, go for it.
You want to have, like, the least, I guess, number of spaces that you need to, I don't know, move, like, pieces left or right. So if you have something closer to the center, does that help you with that?
It does. So if you do 6-3 stacking and the gravity is low, it's probably optimal in terms of how many key presses per piece you need to get it to where it needs to go, if that makes sense. It's kind of a complex way of describing that, but it allows you to get most of your pieces where they need to be with the fewest amount of key presses. So that's one advantage of it. So you can go faster that way.
Yeah.
But the disadvantage is in high gravity, like it's starting to pick up right now, it's harder to maintain two sides of the field because let's say the gravity picks up even further. Sometimes it will not make it across the gap that you see already on his where he just dropped this. Sometimes it will not make it across that gap and it'll get stuck because of the high gravity locking it into place. So there is some risk involved with that, and it's 6-3 is often done. It's better done in lower gravity situations, and also in modes where things like T-spins are important, or when you're playing for score, or in multiplayer even, because 6-3 stacking allows for way more T-spin opportunities than like the gap on the side would.
Yeah, I don't even think we talked about T-spins yet. You want to describe what those are?
So T-spins are a mechanic in the game that allow you to... The reason we haven't been seeing too much of them is that Richard is doing a speedrun, so he wants to clear it as fast as possible. Whereas T-spin is more of a mechanic for scoring as well as multiplayer. But what it is you're creating... see that T-shaped gap on the right side that Richard made, and he just spun a T into it? That's what a T-spin is. You're creating a T-shaped gap with an overhang, and you're spinning your T-piece into it. And what this is good for is, if he was playing multiplayer, that would send as many lines as a Tetris would, using far fewer amount of pieces, so it's way more efficient. So you want to squeeze out a lot of those in multiplayer. Or if you're playing for score, it scores like 1.5 times as much as a Tetris would.
Yeah, and you know, it clears only 2 lines instead of 4 lines, so it is twice as efficient as a Tetris, basically.
Right. Yeah, if you are a multiplayer Tetris player, you'll see, you'll probably run into a lot of players who perform T-spins. And that's just, with modern Tetris games, that's something that you need to pick up and adapt and learn if you want to, like, hang at this. I remember when I was first learning T-spins, it was like, I'm like, what is this? This does not even belong in the game. Why is it stronger than a Tetris? But once you get used to it, you can see it's actually a very deep mechanic, and it adds a lot of depth into the game. A little bit of a messy field here that he's gonna clean up, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I believe in Richard.
Sometimes you just gotta live with it just a little bit, just so you can keep yourself honest. You know, make sure that you want to test yourself when you're in the situation of a multiplayer game and you're getting garbage sent to you. You want to make sure you can clear it. So that's what I'm just practicing for right now.
For
Definitely
sure.
no mistakes.
Also, just proving that you're not a bot or something like that.
Totally spliced run. Now, what's some of the other terminology that's used in Tetris? Like I've noticed, both in games like Tetris and like Puzzle League style games, like you hear stuff like garbage and whatnot. Like, is there actual terminology to that, or is it just a word?
So garbage is typically in multiplayer when people are sending lines to you. So the objective in multiplayer would be to try to top out. Okay, that's another terminology. Top out the other player by sending them enough lines to completely fill their field and kill them. That's called topping out. Garbage is the gray. It's usually gray colored, but let's say you sent a Tetris or a T-spin, that would send 4 lines to your opponent, and those lines would come in as garbage. And those are typically either solid lines or lines with just a random garbage hole location that they would have to deal with. There's T-spins, which we talked about earlier. There's something called digging or downstacking. So let's say his field looks kind of messy and he wants to clear down and decrease the height of his field. That would be called digging.
Okay.
There's actually a lot of terminology, but I think you could spend like a whole stream.
Yeah, and I don't even know half the terms, you know? Like, if you're just playing and you can have fun, that's what matters.
Honestly, it really is. Like, a lot of people are too focused on just, like, they treat the game almost like a chore on things that they need to improve on, but I feel like, if you're not having fun, then I don't think your improvement will matter too much because you'll probably end up quitting the game anyway.
Yeah, and you can always pick up, you know, one thing here and there. Like, over time, then you'll have an entire vocabulary of the terms.
I did like what you said earlier about when you make mistakes, you just work through them, and I think that's the best way to handle mistakes. Instead of, I've seen people who, they make a misdrop. Oh, that's another term, by the way. Misdrop is when you misplace your piece somewhere you didn't want it to go. That's called a misdrop. But a lot of people, sometimes they, after they misdrop, they just completely start the game over. And I think that's, working through your misdrops that's a really good skill to have. So that when you do misdrop in the future, you know how to deal with it and you know how to fix it efficiently.
Yeah, I know when in my very casual attempts at playing Tetris and Tetris-style games, I know that I would get in a panic if I performed a misdrop, and then I just start playing really poorly afterwards.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that goes away with once you do enough misdrops. So basically, if you're panicking after making a misdrop, you have not misdropped enough yet. Because once you misdrop enough, it becomes normal, and you realize that, hey, this isn't the end of the world. There are ways I can fix this.
Oh, is there any pattern to how these pieces spawn at all, or is it all random, or?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question. So on modern games, such as this, Tetris 99, or pretty much anything released after, I want to say like 2009 or 2005 even, when the Tetris guideline came out, the pieces, you receive one of each piece every 7 pieces, but they do spawn in random order. It's just that you will not have like a drought for yes, because every single bag is called bag randomizer. So every 7 pieces you receive one of each piece, because there's 7 pieces total in the game.
Yeah, so like at most you'll ever get in a row is 2 of something. There's also a mechanic that you'll see in the top left corner of holding, so that allows you to basically like save a piece for later, which reduces the variance of your, your 7 pieces that come in by allowing you to hold something.
Yeah, you can store for later. Let's say that a piece spawns and you have no good spot to put it in. You can hold it and save it for later. Or if you have like a T piece and you don't have the T spin set up, or you have an I piece without the Tetris well built, you can hold on to that and save it for when. So it's a really good skill to learn, like efficient piece holding.
I didn't even notice that hold thing until you pointed it out. I just thought I wasn't paying attention enough.
I should have said it earlier. I didn't mean
totally on me. I should have looked.
But yeah, going back to the piece spawn patterns, so that's how it is with modern Tetris games. But more old school Tetris games like NES version of Tetris or Game Boy version of Tetris, those are completely random pieces being spawned. So you can even get like 4 pieces in a row if you're unlucky, or lucky if they're I pieces.
Wasn't there something in those older games that still didn't make it like fully random? It was like it would like re-roll if you had like a similar piece, but then if you got it again, you would still.
So I think the game you're talking about is TGM, the TGM series, okay. Tetris Grandmaster series. I think they use something called memory for where I'm not too sure how to describe it, but if it sees that the piece already spawned within the last 4 pieces, it would. I think I never mind. I won't even try to describe this in case someone knows more about it. But it's I think it is TGM40 randomizer system that you're talking about.
Really interesting to me to hear that something like Tetris, that a lot of people might think is a little bit more on the simple side in terms of like how gameplay works, has such deep terminologies, actual like legitimate strategies, and differences between versions.
Yeah, if you're just like casually playing, you really don't notice any of that because you kind of had to just play through it a bunch to see those differences. But even in something like, if you think about it, right, if you're like an inexperienced Tetris player, for example, you might have like a set of garbage like you can see that I have on screen right now. But, like if you are someone that has a little bit more experience, you're like, oh, okay. You just look at like kind of the top surface of it. Like you don't look at everything at the bottom. And it ends up being like, oh, you've seen that before. Like in the case of you just looking at the surface, like where you want to put this piece. And then you kind of react to that. So, it's just like with any game, like you play more, you get more experience in it, and like you figure out the scenario in which you want to place like a certain piece.
Very true, and it's really fun to see different players' play style, because every single Tetris game is different pretty much in terms of how people play. Like just one piece placement different will completely change the. And it's kind of cool to see like, oh, he put this piece here because of this reason. I would have put it over here, but it doesn't mean that anyone is doing it incorrectly. It's just everyone has their own play style. Some players are more aggressive than others. Some players are more defensive than others in multiplayer.
Now, I did notice there's a little bit of hang time when a piece like hits the top. Is there like a timer when a piece drops before it's completely settled in, or?
Yes, that is called lock delay. So this game does have lock delay in it. You do have a little bit of time, and I think that time is extended as you're rotating your piece. And this is a feature of modern Tetris games where it reaches the bottom, it gives you a little bit of lock delay before it actually locks into place. And that allows for, let's say you were doing like T-spins near the bottom or something like, or some type of twists or rotations near the bottom of the screen. This lock delay, I don't think it's present in classic NES Tetris though. It's more for modern games.
Yeah, because I mean, we mentioned like the T-spins and whatnot, and a lot of times it seems like the angle to get them in is like borderline impossible unless there is some sort of delay, I think.
Oh, right, yes. I know what you're talking about. And even then, there are some T-spins that look impossible, but thanks to another mechanic called like wall kicks, where you're actually kicking your piece off, like it looks like the piece is teleporting into the spot. Like, I don't know if you've seen a T-spin triple before, but that's one of those pieces where if I saw this 10 years ago, I would say that's not even a possible. How is this even possible in Tetris? But it's thanks to like new mechanics in modern Tetris games called wall kicks.
I just love the name of that terminology too, because like I hear wall kick and I think of something like a platforming game or something, like some sort of FPS. Like that, Tetris isn't the first thing that comes to mind, so it's just kind of a cool name for something. It definitely gives me like Titanfall 2 feels.
Speaking of where Tetris doesn't like pop into your head, usually, I mean, people wouldn't think of Tetris as a speedrun game. So, what made you choose Tetris as like Tetris 99 for this run, Richard? Aside from being good at the game.
Well, I mean, there's no particular reason. I just like playing Tetris, and I don't think of it as a speedrun, really. Like, not like in the classical sense of, you know, I'm trying to get the best time. You know, you can do speedruns to just, you know, relax. You know, you have a long day or whatever, and you just want to kind of wind down with something. And that's kind of how I look at this. Is, yeah, it would be nice if I had, you know, like a super fast time or something, but it's just, I think it's just like a general sense of fun. It's something that like I've played for so many years, and it's something that I can just like, you know, like just have some time,
enjoy,
like, just relax and play. And you know, usually while I'm you know, playing Tetris, maybe I'll open up some Tetris stream, like twitch.tv/harddrop, which is happens to be
nice. Thank you.
But yeah, no, it's good because, like, you know, I don't know, the Tetris community in general just seems like a very, you know, like, chill community. It's always fun to just, you know, play some games, especially with something like Tetris 99, actually. You know, you can get like a big group of the same people playing, because it's like 99 people. And
right,
yeah, they're even like monthly like super lobbies, where usually the average Tetris 99 game, how long would you say it is? Like 8 minutes on average?
Yeah, on average about 8 minutes.
Yeah, but those super lobbies.
Yeah, so there's an event that the community hosts once a month called Tetris 99 Super Lobbies, where we get pretty much the absolute best players at this game, Tetris 99, the game that Richard's speedrunning right now. But it's a different mode. We played the multiplayer mode of this, which is like a 99-player battle royale, and pretty much one day each month we meet up for like 2.5 hours and get a ton of players together. And those games last something like 35 minutes each game, because everybody knows what they're doing. And it's probably the most intense Tetris 99 games you'll ever play. The date hasn't been announced for this month yet, but yeah, we host one once every month. And we have players from Japan, players from Europe, North Americans representing. It's and we don't take it too seriously. It's just really good players hanging out and having fun together.
And that's what matters. It's all about
really
the fun factor.
Yeah, I think that.
Oh, go ahead.
I think Tetris attracts like a certain type of people or demographic, but I just noticed it's a lot more. There's not a lot of toxicity that I see in the community compared to maybe other communities that I've been in the past. So it's really chill environment. People are just here hanging out, having fun. Lots of us are like working or in school, so we play this to unwind afterwards.
It's kind of cool to hear you mention all the different countries of players and whatnot, because a lot of times in speedrunning communities in general, you know, there's always a focus of, oh, I need to play this game on this language or whatever. But Tetris is pretty universal.
For sure, it is, yeah. There's not a lot of explanation required. It's one of those games super easy to pick up, but really hard to master, though. Looks like Richard's approaching the end here. Already 968 lines cleared.
Yeah,
I think I would be at like 100 at most if I didn't already die.
Yeah, basically when it hits 999, then that's when time is. I mean, like, the mode will end itself, but that's when we can stop the timer as well.
Oh, I do have a quick second of downtime. I'd just like to point out real quick that don't forget that these Hotfix shows, like what's going on right now, and all the other ones like Learning with Liz, First Step, Testing Grounds, those are all funded by your guys' subs and you guys sticking around while we do ad breaks. So I just want to thank you for the support you guys have given us thus far, and I would also like to encourage you guys to consider maybe dropping a free Prime sub our way or sticking around for the ad breaks when we do take them.
I think I have a problem. I'm having difficulty getting this last line.
Oh dear.
Dude, give us a T-spin. Give us a T-spin for this one.
All right.
Wait, give us a. Let's see. Give us a. Never mind. I don't want. Yeah. Wait. Watch him top out for the last line.
I was finally not stressing out. What do you do?
What? There's no stress here.
Here it is. Good job.
See, we did it. I don't know what you're talking about. There was no stress to be had, Keys.
That's so rude.
All right, and yeah, that was 999 line mode in Tetris 99. It's pretty fun. You can buy to download that. But you know, Tetris 99 itself is free if you have the Nintendo Online thing. And there's actually an event going on right now where if you get you know, a high enough number of points, you can get 999 like Nintendo Gold dollar things, or I don't know what exactly it is. There's like rules and stuff to it, but it's not too bad to, you know, get enough points for it. But yeah, that was it for me. Yeah, stay tuned for Keys.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the Showrunner Showcase, Random Pieces Edition. We have randomized the pieces of this bingo board for Keizaron, because he's going to be doing some Pokemon Crystal Randomizor Cinco bingo. And before we get into that, I just want to give a quick rundown of some really cool announcements that are coming up this Monday. We're going to be having the community spotlight on the Shovel Knight community. They're going to be doing a lot of different Shovel Knight runs this Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, we have Frame Fatale is going to be starting February 23rd, so be sure to check that out as well. And Keys, interesting bingo board you have here.
Yeah, I actually had one of my mods like make a board for me that I said, hey, give me a board where I don't look like a dingus on GDQ, and apparently this is what he considered a good board. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of this, figured I'd explain a little bit and then also talk about what's so special about my version of Crystal that I'm going to be using. So first and foremost, as mentioned, this is the Random Pieces edition of Showrunner Showcase. This is a randomizer of Crystal. If you don't know what a randomizer is, it basically just, as the word random means, it just throws everything into disarray. We're going to see different locations for Pokemon, different learn sets for Pokemon. You're going to see trainers with different Pokemon as well. Items will be moved around. TMs that are taught will be different. On the topic of TMs, there is 100% compatibility with that, both for the sake of speed and for the sake of not being stuck. Like, it'd be really unfortunate to have to use the cut HM and have something that doesn't learn cut and be stuck in that way. So you're going to see some really interesting things. If and when I get Fly, for example, you might see like a Weedle sprite fly me somewhere. It's going to be interesting. The goals that we see on the card, you're actually going to see me star some while I talk about this. If you see a star, that's me indicating to myself that I know I can for sure do this goal no matter what the circumstances are. Each goal has very clear way to figure out what to do. Like, for example, the Sunflora Executor goal. I just need to get a Sunflora or an Executor marked as owned in my Pokedex, and that will clear that goal out. There's also some alternate things. For example, this defeat a legendary Pokemon goal. That includes stuff like, you know, the legendary birds, the legendary dogs, the Mewtwo, the Mew, like that counts. Also, anything that replaces the static versions of them. So if anyone recalls, in Pokemon Crystal, there is the Suicune, Raikou, and Entei roamers. If I run into whatever those are randomized into, that will count. If I climb Tin Tower and get the Ho-Oh, that will count. So there are some alternate ways to finish things here and there. Some of these goals are a lot easier than others. For example, TM50, there's a static location for the TM, so that's not shuffled or randomized, whereas TM46 is not a static TM. So that can be anywhere. It could even be in Kanto, which is somewhere I'm not going to access. Speaking of alternate ways to do a goal, same thing with like burn, paralyze, or poison Sudowoodo. If I find a randomized Sudowoodo, I can burn, paralyze, or poison that to clear the goal. If I get to the static Sudowoodo, i.e. the one that you need the squirt bottle for, that will also count. So that's most likely we're going to see me get that goal. Now to kind of talk about the ROM a little bit. So you're going to see a bunch of fancy settings here. One, I'm just going to select the bingo preset so everything's set up. And I'm going to name myself GDQ. So this is a special version of Crystal where we get rid of a lot of the fluff. So like, for example, Rocket section says Purge. So we don't have to do the Rocket Hideout in Mahogany, and we don't have to do the Radio Tower. Once we clear the Shiny Gyarados event, we'll have access to basically everything, because the way that the game locks progress is the flags are set to certain items. Spinners Purge, meaning that they are not randomly moving around. They are just in a set circular pattern, so they're easier to dodge. There's some other more important things too, like the Black-White Experience system helps me, so if I need to switch to a different Pokemon to level it up, it will utilize the Gen 5 experience system. Better encounter slots, that way we don't have to deal with stuff like 1%, 4%, and 5%. The absolute lowest percentage something will be is 10%, other than one particular instance that we're not going to run into. There's stuff like better marts that allows me to buy stones, so like the Sunflora Executor goal is a lot more doable for me. I can buy a Sunstone or a Leaf Stone. And then Easy Tin Tower is a really important one too, especially since we have stuff like Defeat a Legendary Pokemon. That will allow me to access Tin Tower without having to beat the Elite Four. So just a lot of stuff that's like really quality of life. But I'm going to go ahead and start this. I'll give a 5-second countdown, and then we get to have some fun. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Also, another thing too is I'm not mashing that fast. This ROM has a really, really nice feature where you can hold to mash and it's instant text. So we're gonna blaze through a lot of this text. And that's kind of why this is a faster category to do. So an average run of a randomized Cinco bingo is going to be about an hour and a half and some change, anywhere between like 130 to 145. Unless you're newer, obviously, in which case it could be a little longer, but that just kind of comes with experience. On top of everything else, so I set my date specifically to Saturday, and I'm going to try and explain my logic for a lot of what I do here. So I set my date specifically to Saturday because that's when a bug catching contest is. So let me just double check the card to make sure I'm not skipping something that could be on it. We're going to go ahead and roll with this, I guess.
You know, it also is Saturday today.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So we did it. But we went with the Butterfree there because we do have the own 7 different flying types, and Butterfree is a flying type. So it's just kind of a free way to progress that. Sometimes Butterfree can be on the card, not in this case. Sometimes Onix can be, not this case again. And then sometimes Quilava, Cyndaquil's evolution, can be. Now, we don't have access to Pokeballs quite yet, so if we run into something that could be on the card, like Miltank can be on the card, but it is not. We unfortunately just have to run away. I'm just going to take a quick peek at my moveset. Not that I plan on running this Butterfree, but if it has something like Headbutt or Rock Smash, then it can make a significant difference. We had a randomized TM attached to us. It was False Swipe. False Swipe's actually fantastic. It is a move that makes it so you can weaken a Pokemon down to 1 HP without killing them. You can even hit them constantly over and over and over at 1 HP, and it will not drop them. Now, a neat little thing to do here is you're going to see me enter the center and then exit it. That sets our warp point. So if I accidentally, die, then at least we'll come back here instead of back home. I also did a very specific shop there. Many different runners do different shops. Some people get status healing items and whatnot. I kind of played a little loose in that regard. Statuses early aren't the most terrible thing to deal with. And I also have just enough money to do what I got. As mentioned before, we have a better mart option. You can't typically buy Pokeballs this early. You usually have to wait until you get back to Professor Elm. But because we have that option on, I'm able to get some balls early. So that means I can catch this Aerodactyl, which is another flying type. Unless I kill it. Apparently this Butterfree is very, very strong. I also overestimated how much defense that Aerodactyl had. So we can come back for that later, no big deal. There's also plenty of flying types. In terms of if anybody wants to get into randomizers of Pokemon, you could always Google Universal Pokemon Randomizer. There's a program made by DeBombstew that helps with generating your own randomizers. You can also go to, I can't remember off the top of my head the actual link, but there is a Discord specifically for randomizer bingos. Primarily Crystal, but you could also do it with Emerald. Just in general, you can, I'm going to turn around real quick and grab this. Just in general, you can also do it with just about any game. There are boards made for Gens 1 through 3 and a rough one made for Platinum, but I don't know how well play tested that is. Now, right now, the aim of the game, even though we do have to worry about knocking out these goals, the aim of the game for me right now is advance a little bit so I can try and get something that I can run. Now, I know there are people that like Butterfree, but in the case of speed, you don't really want to run a Butterfree. Typically, what you want to look for in a main, in a randomizer, is something with pretty decent base stat total and then pretty solid moveset. This Butterfree actually has a pretty solid moveset, but it is a Butterfree, so we're not really going to get much mileage out of it. In fact, I anticipate we're definitely going to lose this now. Oh, we are certainly going to lose this. We can lose the first rival fight. It's no big deal. We just missed out on a tiny bit of money, but It's technically faster in a lot of different cases. Not in this case, because it's not knocking me out. I would appreciate if it did. To explain a couple of these goals as well, because I'm sure there's a couple of them that might look a little confusing. So encounter Suicune on Route 42. There's an event fight that you can do at Cyanwood, which is the little island that you surf to get the 5th badge and to also get Fly. There's a trainer fight with Ucine. Ucine is an NPC introduced in Crystal that wasn't in Gold and Silver, and it kind of like advances the plot line a little bit. But once you defeat Ucine, you can encounter the Suicune sprite behind a cut tree on Route 42. That's unfortunate that popped out. Something to keep in mind is this is within the randomizer program. We're getting unlucky here. So I actually have all the catch rates set to what we call minimum catch rate. There's a number option. Wow, this is bad luck. There's a number option between 1 and 4, and I have it set to 4. 4 being the absolute best catch rate you can get, which you wouldn't believe right now because of how many balls this Farfetch has popped out of. This is actually about... Okay, so it popped out of 5 70%. Got it. So I'm out of balls. I can't catch him. But minimum catch rate basically makes it so everything has a Pidgey catch rate. So once again, proving how unlucky I got there. That was about 70-ish% to catch in each ball that I threw, and it popped out of all of them. To put it into other terms, if you're a Pokemon nerd, that's the equivalent of missing 5 Thunders in a row. So not the greatest start right now, but we do get 5 more balls here. I'm gonna nickname this RNG because it doesn't like us right now. Also going to take this free heal. I don't recall if Butterfree did get hit or not, but I'm not going to chance it because it's a Butterfree.
You know, speaking of RNG, there actually is a show called Random Number Generation. That's
oh, yeah?
By Skybills, yeah, on Hotfix. That's every other Tuesday. Be sure to check that out at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
I was on that show before. I also did Randomized Crystal. It's like I do it all the time.
So Keys, I do actually have a question about like bingo board generation.
Absolutely.
So you know, in some other games bingos, I know that every row, column, or diagonal typically has some easy objectives and also like a difficult objective. Is that something that kind of occurs with Crystal Bingo as well?
Yeah, so there are goals that are weighed a lot heavier than others, and then goals that are like super easy in comparison. So as mentioned earlier, I start a lot of goals that I know that I can do with little to no work. Those are going to be a lot of our easier goals. Like TM50 is a guaranteed TM. You just got to deliver the mail that's attached to a gift Pokemon. Pretty simple to do. But then you see stuff like trade a Pokemon or protect, detect, endure. Those are a little bit harder to get to. So it's actually kind of funny. They're supposed to be lined up so they don't prevent you too much from finishing. Like it's something that could be a little bit of a roadblock. But both of those goals are actually in really nice places, and that kind of makes me sad. Butterfree is doing a lot more work than it should be. Maybe I run this for the people. I don't want to. But yeah, like something like 4 moves sharing its type, that one's super duper easy, especially since 100% learn compatibility is on. So you just pretty much need like a normal type Pokemon, and that's pretty much a guarantee. And there's no chance you don't run into a normal type Pokemon. Now Electabuzz has potential to be good, but that is... Oh, it has Endure. That's fantastic. So we already knock out a goal. I'll go ahead and mark that. I did mark that before I caught it. Now, to explain why I did that, I did mention minimum catch rate. And even though you wouldn't believe it with that Farfetch that wouldn't get in the ball, once something as it is at below a third of their health, they are a guaranteed catch. It doesn't matter what ball you use. Overall, because of how the minimum catch rate is set through the randomizer, you're just better off buying Pokeballs. It's just a lot more cost efficient. A Pokeball is $200 per, whereas like a Great Ball is $600, and then Ultra Ball is $1,200. There's also some interesting quirks with how that's handled. So there is a type of ball in the game called a level ball. The level ball acts like a master ball for up to a certain level. I want to say the threshold stops at around 15 or 20. Like, if it's too high of a level, it becomes more of a regular Pokeball. But so if I find a level ball, then it's basically having like an early master ball. Now, these Pokemon really don't have the greatest move sets. I'm getting a little unlucky with finding something. Clefairy is something I'm going to go ahead and catch for the aforementioned 4 moves sharing its type. Twister is a dragon move. That is not what we want to see, but that's okay. Now, some of the goals, I'm kind of happy that we don't see some of the weirder goals. So some of the goals, you'll see like X Pokemon or Y Pokemon. So there is a decent amount of logic to why things are put together. Furret Kadabra might be a little bit of a head scratcher for some people. They're just earlier evolutions. They both evolve relatively early, so they were bunched up. We had to make these goals with Randomizor in mind. The original bingo cards took the vanilla version of the game in mind, and in Randomizor, it made some things a lot easier and some things a lot harder. There wasn't really much in terms of balance. Azumarill, Quagsire, they're both water Pokemon that evolve at like level 20-ish, if not outright 20. I can't remember what Quagsire is off the top of my head in terms of level. But Dunsparce, Wobbuffet, Girafarig, they're rare single-stage Pokemon. There are some weird ones, though, like there is Poliwrath or Slowking, and that one might confuse people because you would think, oh, Politoed makes more sense because they both evolve with a King's Rock. Well, the randomizer gets rid of impossible evolutions, so anything that evolves via trade will evolve at 37. Anything that evolves via trade with an item is level 30. Slowpoke has a special exception with Slowking where it's a water stone, so that's why it's Poliwrath Slowking, because you can get a Poliwhirl via water stone. Now, to kind of explain a little bit how unlucky I'm kind of getting in terms of encounters right now. So there's the better encounter slot thing that I turned on earlier. Now, what that accomplishes is it gets rid of anything below 10% luck, other than, like I said before, a small amount of cases. So the way that the slots are divvied up is on the ground that we were just on, like all grass, all dungeon ground. There's 7 different slots. There's 2 20%, 2 15%, and 3 10%. So the fact that we ran into that horsey like 3 or 4 times was just kind of silly luck. If you're surfing, then it's 3 different slots. It's a 60%, a 30%, and a 10%. There's also, you know, separation with like fishing and headbutt, but those are actually really, really annoying, and their percentage splits are kind of dumb. So it's not something we do too often. I might have to use the old rod once we get past Faulkner. If we get past Faulkner, we still don't have the most serviceable main. I'm trying to go out of my way a little bit to find something that I know can perform a little better. Not really getting anything that could right now. If I find something that's relatively serviceable, you're going to see me climb up this tower. Even though we don't see HM05 Flash anywhere on the card, we do have this goal right here, Pokemon with 4 non-TM, non-damaging moves. For the sake of goal clarity, we mentioned non-TM. HMs are not TMs. So if I climb up the tower and grab Flash, then that can count as one of the 4 moves. So it wouldn't be too bad of a play to do. I'm going to go a little bit out of my way again, and I'm just going to hope that we actually find something. This is actually a really, really unfortunate ROM right now. Typically, it's not this hard to find something that can work. I think we just got a little unlucky. Okay, Dugong isn't the greatest, but I'm desperate enough. If it survives, then sure. Alright, it survived. Let's take a look at what its moves are. I'm also going to go to the Mart real quick to buy more Pokeballs because we are kind of low, and we can run into something in Sprout Tower. Okay, so not the worst move set. There is some PP issue because we do have 2 5 PP moves, but I mean between that and the Butterfree, we can always kind of dual main a little bit, get to the fishing rod, hope that the fishing rod gives up something good. The nice thing about when we get to the fishing rod is it's not too long after we beat the first gym, and the even nicer thing about that is how it's a guaranteed level 10 Pokemon, so we're not going to be too far behind the curve. Yeah, this is not a typical start, no surprise. We're going to go ahead and heal up, and we're going to go ahead and climb the tower, get that Flash HM, just so we can be in the running for row 5, column 3. You're also going to see me deposit Pokemon a decent amount. Combination of 1, I don't want to accidentally teach over Endure in the case of that Electabuzz. 2, the healing animation's a little quicker if you have less Pokemon. And then 3, if I empty out my team a little bit and I'm still looking for a potential new main to use, then, you know, it'll go straight to my party instead of straight to the PC. So I'll be able to kind of take a peek at some things. So as you can see, that guy is normally what we call a spinner. He usually looks in random directions, but because of us having spinners turned off, we are able to just walk by him no problem. I'm gonna take a second look at this Aerodactyl. Yeah, it really isn't good. All right, I'm gonna try and force the Dugong a little bit. Now you might hear some clicking from my keyboard, so I take notes while I'm playing these, and that's a good piece of advice for anybody that wants to consider picking this up, is to constantly take notes. Like for example, I have notes listing that I have 2 flying types and I have Butterfree and Aerodactyl listed. That way I can kind of track things a little bit. And for something that's more item oriented, like the 7 different types of berries, you're going to see me deposit those into my PC eventually, just so I can avoid accidentally using them and losing them. Sure. Okay, so that's a good thing. So since Sunflora popped up, I'm going to go ahead and star that square. That way I know I have a possible path to it. I'm also going to take note of that. Typically, you'll see different runners do different strategies. But in my case, typically, I don't even look at my information until a certain point in the game. Combination of... Ooh, Porygon 2, something that could be good. Combination of reducing menus and then also just gathering more information. Like, it kind of goes off the reducing menu thing. Obviously, you're going to save time if you're not constantly going to your Pokedex to look up locations of things. So Porygon 2 has potential to be good. Just in general, with Crystal Randomizers, normal types are really, really good. So, and that's not the most terrible moveset. It's more of a special attacker than a physical attacker overall, but it's something I'll give a shot. I'm more comfortable with that. That has a better upside than the Dugong. Also, Iron's good. That means we have money. I'm also going to save because we're trying to make a different Pokemon work. But yeah, going back to the normal type thing, normal types are really good in Gen 2 for a handful of reasons. This is one of the only gens where you probably would prefer being a physical attacker over a special attacker, especially if you're a normal type. So the thing about normal types is after the second gym, you have access to Headbutt, and that's not randomized. Anything that's considered a field move is not randomized. So Sweet Scent isn't randomized. Headbutt isn't randomized, Rock Smash isn't randomized. So you have a guaranteed Headbutt TM, and that's a 70 power, 15 use move that, since it's a normal type move, something like a Porygon 2 or an Ursa Ring or anything like that would turn that 70 power into 105 power. So all of a sudden you have a really, really, really strong move, and it's really early too. Now, Earthquake is obviously a really, really good move. It looks like this Vileplume either doesn't have anything for me or the AI is just really bad. That's good for us because that means we can dump more experience into the Porygon 2. The cool thing about a lot of these randomizers, like even just outside of bingo, is it sometimes is obvious what you want to see in a speedrun for like a Pokemon. Like Gen 1, it's really obvious that's Nidoking because its move pool is fantastic. You can use X accuracies to give it one-hit KO moves that never miss, like that kind of stuff. A lot of times, if you can get a legendary early, or like even late in the game, like you'll switch to that. Gen 3 is a really good example. Like Sapphire will use the legendary, Emerald will use the legendary, a Vanilla Crystal run uses a legendary. But with randomizers, you actually get to see a bunch of different combinations. Porygon 2 isn't something you'd normally consider a solo main, but like I mentioned before, because it's a normal type, it's actually really solid. You'll also see things like Ursaring, Grand Bull. Ooh, that's not good for me. Okay, we'll restart. Like Ursaring, Grand Bull, Octillery, things that are like typically on the slower end, or things that typically don't have good learn sets, like a Stantler. You get to use stuff like that because, as mentioned a couple of times already, you get to learn any TM or HM. Like there's no restriction to that. Alright, well, he's not Ancient Powering this time. Okay, now he is. Ancient Power has a 10% chance to boost all of your stats up one stage. Now we could have switched and knocked out the Snorlax with somebody else, but I'm really focused on trying to get this Porygon up. Whirlwind's a terrible move, we're not learning that. This Porygon is in decent position to do well. We just need to, you know, not get any less lucky than we have so far. Oh, and then that thing is like very good to see. That is the middle goal. That's Venonat Paris. All right, so I'm fine with taking the death from that, just because we got past the bulk of the fight. And I know that Butterfree is going to be able to clean up from there. The key thing is we got to level 10, and level 10 is an interesting benchmark. So if a level ends, I believe it's 0, 3, 5, and 8. I believe those are the numbers. Then you get increased damage because of the damage calculations. Like, it's really weird. So ending at 10 is good for us, especially since we're going through the gym. Now, to mention why seeing a Pokemon on a trainer is good, once you see a Pokemon, it's registered in your dex as seen. Like, not owned, but as seen. So that means I can look in the dex later. So like we saw that Paris. So that means later on I can check my Pokedex and see exactly where the Paris is. And then, you know, once I catch the Paris, then I get to mark that goal. And just as a reminder, this is Cinco Bingo. Cinco is 5 in Spanish. It's just our fun way to kind of play off how similar the words sound. So I need to get 5 bingos. Not 5 goals, but 5 bingos. So I need to get 5 different lines. So that could be horizontal, that could be vertical, that could be diagonal. Lines can overlap. You can finish a Cinco Bingo in as quickly as 16 goals and in as slowly as 23, I believe. Like, once you get to the 23, then you get 6 bingos and not 5, but you can be stuck on 4 for a while. I do want to keep an eye out both for a Pokemon that doesn't have that many damaging moves and then something that can status the Pseudo-Widow. That's not coming up for a little while, but it's still something good to prepare for. To talk about the trade a Pokemon goal a tiny bit. So even though this is randomized, the way that we treat the trade a Pokemon goal is we have it set so the randomizer doesn't... Ooh, that's a fantastic attack. The the randomizer doesn't randomize the Pokemon you have to give. So the Bellsprout for Onix trade, for example, will still be a Bellsprout, but it won't necessarily be an Onix. So if I find a Bellsprout, for example, then I have a path to trade a Pokemon. Now, getting Tri-Attack there was actually really, really good, and that makes me feel even better about using this Porygon. So Tri-Attack is a normal type move. As mentioned before, you get a same type attack bonus. So it's an 80 power move, but since it's a normal type and Porygon's a normal type, it is now a 120 power move. So I have a really, really strong move early. And even though this Porygon's more of a... It's more specially oriented than physically oriented, it's still something that's good enough to utilize physical attack. And it's bulky enough to where it's not going to die too often, if ever. Normal type only has one weakness, and it's fighting type. Our move coverage is really, really good. I believe we hit just about everything, if not everything, neutrally. Now we just got high jump kick, so that's going to be taught to him. So now we just have a really, really solid physical moveset. So now we should be able to go through things a little faster than we have been. Oops. Ignore the bad movement. So how you feeling after your Tetris run?
I'm feeling really good because I am excited to see all of this Cinco bingo run.
I'm excited that you're excited. I'm gonna try and do my best to not let you down, friend.
Thanks, Keys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, while Keys is walking around here, I do also want to mention, you know, the support that everyone gives on this channel is always very generous. We can have these Hotfix events thanks to everyone's subs and bits, and even just, you know, tuning in and sharing the channel as well. All very helpful stuff.
As I'm gonna pick up some items. As you can see, like, the items are randomized. Like, you don't ever get a King's Rock there. That's normally a super potion. Items are nice. We could find different types of Pokeballs. We can find possibly different berries. Like, we found that Great Ball. That's neat. Now, I did very specific movement there. Fun fact about that movement I did. So because I got the Repel Wears Off text, that actually killed enough frames to where I was able to pass that rotator without accidentally hitting the rotator. That's something that I've seen a lot of people do, including myself. Now we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do a handful of things here. I'm gonna deposit the egg. You would think that logically keeping the egg is probably a good play, mainly because it could be a Pokemon that you need, but typically, more often than not, the egg isn't gonna hatch fast enough. The egg is something that hatches based off of amount of steps, and there are very few Pokemon that are going to hatch in the amount of steps that you will do in a Cinco bingo. So, something to keep in mind that I've mentioned a couple of times, like I mentioned, like, physical attackers are good in this gen, and I keep talking about, like, how attacks work. So the first 3 gens of Pokemon are actually a little bit different in how they handle physical and special. So there's physical attacks, which goes off your attack stat, and there's special attacks that go off of your special attack stat. I know, that's what a concept. But instead of being based on the move, like it is Gen 4 and onward, like Ice Punch is physical, like it's a punch, so it's physical, whereas like Ice Beam is special. It's based simply on the typing of the move. So the easiest way to look at it is if Eevee evolves into that type, or if it's Dragon or Fairy, then it would be considered a special move. Now, obviously, there's no Fairy type in this game, but if it's Eevee, or if Eevee doesn't evolve into it, then it's a physical move. So normal, fighting, bug, all that stuff. So that means stuff like Ghosts are actually kind of lame in this, because Ghost is considered physical for some reason. Don't really understand why. I never try to understand Game Freak logic too much. They are a rare breed. Now TM20 is a random TM that could be on the card, but unfortunately not this time. That would have been kind of nice. The thing about the random TMs is, as mentioned, like they are just kind of sitting on the floor wherever. So to talk a little bit about the logic of how the items are randomized. So if it's a TM, it's just going to randomize to a different number possibly, and then it's going to be a TM. So like if there's normally a TM at that spot, it's not going to randomize to a completely different item. It's going to keep its class in that case. Otherwise, it's just completely random. It's like TMs will always be TMs, but they won't necessarily be the same TM. An item on the ground can be whatever. We're going to sell a few things here. We're going to sell the iron because the iron's really, really good. Jump kick and high jump kick is redundant, and we don't need TM20, so I'm going to go ahead and sell that. Items are always nice. Gonna buy some repels so we can avoid some encounters, buy some escape ropes so we can get out of dungeons, buy some super potions so we have healing items, and buy some Pokeballs so we can replenish our stock for when we start catching things again. As I did at the very beginning, I'm gonna enter the Pokemon Center and then leave it. That way I set my warp point just in case I wipe. I'm picking up that white apricorn, even though that isn't a berry. I'm picking it up because we do have 5 different types of Pokeball on the card. I also mentioned earlier that I set my day to Saturday, but I also set a specific time. So I'm at 11 p.m. So once the day rolls over, or once we reach the hour, the day rolls over, so it'll change from Saturday to Sunday. So for something like 5 different types of Pokeball, I can pick up that apricorn, give it to Kurt, and then come back in probably like 30 minutes from now. Come back so I can get a different type of ball. So he will give you a lure ball for free, and then if you give him that apricorn that I just picked up, he will also give you a fast ball. So in terms of 5 different types of Pokeball, we're in pretty good position. We would need to buy an Ultra Ball. We would need to pick up the Lure Ball from him, and then we'd need to pick up the Fast Ball later, so that'd be all 5. Five balls is actually kind of intimidating for newer runners, just because they might not necessarily know about how the apricorns work, or they might not know about how to utilize time rolling over the day. They might be too scared to go through Ice Path to get to a shop that has Ultra Balls, you know, just all sorts of different things. But it's actually a really nice goal, and I'm kind of happy that it's in the corner because, you know, it can give me potentially 3 different bingos. Now, getting an encounter here is kind of unlikely, but it is a baby poke, so that's always good. I'm trying to think of how I can weaken it without killing it. So this will be one of our 2 babies, assuming that it gets in. The list of babies includes Togepi, Cleffa, Igglybuff, Pichu, Elekid, Smoochum, Magby, and Tyrogue. I don't think I missed any. But they're kind of going back to how I deal with the card as a whole. And I'm sure that there's some people that are coming in late and wondering why there's stars on the card. So if I mark something with a star, that means I know I can do the goal, or I have information on the goal. And then once we get further into the run, you'll see me unstar things and restar things, and that will kind of indicate the route that I'm going to try and take. So we just got a baby Pokemon right there, right? But I don't know where any of the others are, so I'm not going to star that goal quite yet, even though it's probably likely that we do that goal. Something like defeat a level 40 Pokemon, there's plenty of level 40 Pokemon to take out. Something like Paris and Sunflora, we saw them on trainers, so I can look them up in the decks and see where their locations are, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to give the Porygon the King's Rock, even though it's not that fast. On the off chance that we do outspeed, King's Rock does give you a chance to flinch. There is a little strategy in what items you equip on your Pokemon. Ate my down input. That makes me sad. But there is strategy to that. So typically the best item that you're going to get is either Amulet Coin, which doubles your money output from fights, or Leftovers, which every turn it restores, I believe it's 1/16 of your health. It's either 1/8 or 1/16. 1/16 sounds like it's more correct. But then there's just a bunch of other items that you could possibly use too, like King's Rock to get some flinches to possibly make a fight safer or faster. There's stuff like Scope Lens, which increases the likelihood of getting a crit. There's also like move boosting items, like Mystic Water will boost the power of water moves, for example, but they're not as good as they are in newer gens. Back in the older gens, it was only a 10% boost, so it's kind of negligible. Nowadays, it's a 20% boost, which is huge. Now, something to point out here, just a little fun fact. So, these twins that I just fought, they're actually technically two different trainers. If you fight the right one instead of the left one, you're going to get completely different Pokemon. It's actually a neat little thing. It's something that you wouldn't know just playing vanilla Pokemon, because the way that they programmed it is they just swap their names around and then swap the order of Pokemon, but they are technically two different trainers. But that's another thing too. A lot of times, if you're watching someone do a race casually with some friends, a lot of times you'll hear them talk about whether they went left or right in the gym. So going left is technically fastest, because you fight the twins, which they have the two Pokemon. Then you fight the guy on the left, which only has one. If you go to the right, then you fight 2 and 2, so it's one Pokemon faster. But there's also strategy to that. If you're more interested in trying to gather more information potentially, then the quantity of Pokemon is going to be more valuable than the speed of going through. Now, Bugsy having that Dragonair is actually really, really good. There's a Dragonair trade in Blackthorn, so I'm going to go ahead and star that to indicate that we could possibly do that. So right now, if we're looking at what I have marked, we only have 1 guaranteed bingo so far, and we need 5. But all that information will start falling in our lap. Like, we just have to advance the game a little bit. There's plenty of time. There's also plenty of different ways to handle things. Like a Azumarill Quagsire, we can always catch a Marill or a Wooper if we do see one of those, and they evolve really early, so we can always do that. Some of the more concerning goals right now are things like TM46 and Dunsparce, Wobbuffet, Girafarig, because those are single-stage Pokemon, and there's no guarantee we run into them. But everything else, for the most part, is probably most likely to pop up. If Abra pops up, that'd be an interesting one, because there's an Abra trade, and we could also evolve it into Kadabra, so that would help us get 2 goals if we find 2 of them. We keep seeing a bunch of Flying-type Pokemon as well, which is really nice, because if we want to go after 7 different Flying types, then, you know, we can eventually start making our way towards that.
So about the different goals,
yeah.
I just had a question of, does the community kind of dictate what, like, the goals are and, like, what the weights of them are? Like, how has that developed over time?
So, as mentioned before, it originally started with different goals because it was designed for the vanilla version of the game. A lot of us... it started with me, another runner named Montebank, who was a really good Gen 1 runner, and then another former runner named Medician. We did a ton of bingos with the older card, and we realized how unbalanced it was for Randomizor. So we took a crack at making our own goals, and it changed from being bad because it didn't fit the rando to bad because we made the goals far too easy. We did 2 or 3 test runs, and we were getting times that were an hour or less, which is significantly quicker than, like, my estimate, for example. An average run now is 130 to 145, depending on luck and execution. But no, there's a bunch of people that got together and we worked on making goals. It was me, Montebank, and Medic again. But then we also had people like Hercules Bench Press, Alta Biscuit, Oro, and Mamgar all kind of come up with ideas that had logic. I forgot to repel. Oops. Come up with ideas that all had some form of logic. And then, you know, we just kind of discussed like what seemed like it was a harder goal. Like Rising Badge is weighed really heavily because that is Claire's gym, and Claire's gym is the hardest gym in Johto. Whereas something like 7 types of berries is weighed really low because it's super easy to get. You just need to know like where the locations are. So it's something that's developed over time with a bunch of different people involved. But I don't think we've made any changes to any of the goals in several months. I think over a year at this point in time, actually. The only thing we've really looked at possibly changing is there is a do not use repels goal, which is okay, but in a game like Pokemon where there's already a lot of that just kind of adds more, and it kind of makes races just come down to one of two things: either who ran into the right encounter because they didn't have repels up, or who made it far enough because somebody else ran into too many encounters, and that kind of stuff. So that's one of the only goals that we've really considered changing for the past year, but otherwise all the goals are pretty set. There hasn't been any changes in ages. We're pretty satisfied with the goals overall.
That's good.
We have ran a couple of tournaments as well, like just a bunch of people getting together, double elimination style bracket, best of one, just because it's on the longer side, and scheduling's hard.
Yeah, it is.
But there are talks. It's been a while, but there are talks about possibly doing a team tournament, which would be kind of cool. So to kind of plug in the site I'm using for the bingo card, so I'm on bingosync.com. There's actually a decent amount of games that are listed, and you can make your own custom card too. Like you can, the formatting for it's kind of obnoxious, but you can make your own custom cards too. But Bingo Sync is really cool. You can have up to 10 different players. There's 10 different colors to choose from. And because like you can have people stack on colors, you can have team-based races. So like the team tournament that I just kind of mentioned, like we could have 2 or 3 people working towards goals and whatnot. Like it'd be a pretty cool dynamic to see. But we get to move faster soon because we're right at the bike. Pretty nice. We're going to go after the win bug catching contest goal in just a sec. And it's funny to watch bug catching contest in a randomizer because in vanilla, you know, it's just a bunch of Caterpies, bunch of Weedles, like so on and so forth. Try to go for the Scyther or the Pinsir. We're probably not going to see bugs though. Something to note with the bug catching contest is it's every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, which is why I set it to Saturday night. And it's based off of the stats of your Pokemon. So obviously higher base stat Pokemon are going to have a better chance of winning. HP is weighed the most. I believe if it's like a level 9 or 10 Blissey, then you pretty much guarantee a win. Some factor is the damage to the Pokemon too. So a lot of times you'll see people just throw balls without weakening things. This Kingdra has a pretty solid chance of winning. I would estimate it's about 80 or more %. We do have a calculator to kind of tell you what the chances are. I've never personally used it. I just kind of go off of assumption. Sometimes it saves me time. Sometimes it bites me in the butt. But I'm glad we saved though, because this thing does not want to get in the ball. Friendly reminder: it's 1 in 3 to get in, and it double crit me, which is 1 in 256. So as you can see, statistics are a lie. Now, because it was the level 14, there's a chance it took the Scyther and Pinsir slot, which means it's not common at all. But it could also be common, and we just ran into a 14. Like, it could have taken like the Caterpie slot. So we're gonna catch this Igglybuff real quick. So even unless you reset the game like I did, even if you don't keep the Pokemon that you catch in the contest, if you catch it in the contest, it counts as owned. So let's say I catch this Rhyhorn and I get rid of my Igglybuff. Because it's marked as owned in my dex, I get that goal. Now, if I were to reset again, I'd be resetting that owned status away, so I would have to redo the goal. We want to try and win this contest within like the next 14, 15 minutes or so. Just because we are facing day rollover. And it's looking like that Kingdra was a not common boy, which makes me sad. It's back. Oh, it's level 12. That's not high enough. Alright, so if it's level 12, it didn't take the Scyther or Pinsir slot, because Scyther and Pinsir can only be 13 or 14. That, however... that can win. Typically, you want to see 14 or higher, because that gives you much higher chances, but 13 has a chance. If this doesn't win, then that's totally fine. You can actually change the clock. So I can change the date back, and we can just come back later. Another fun fact here kind of goes off a similar concept to the twins that I was talking about earlier, where they're technically different trainers. So the bug catching contest map and the national park map are technically two different maps. So in a randomizer, the items I'm picking up, sans the TM's always going to be the same, but the items I'm picking up can be different depending on which version of the map you're on. So I got a protein and a thunderstone just now. It could be like two different berries. All right, so we won the bug catching contest. Very good. It's another goal down. Everything's coming up keys for now. Not the worst moveset. I am still checking movesets because I still want to make sure I can do Burn, Paralyze, or Poison Widow. We do have Tri Attack, which can do... oh, hey, this thing had Endure. Perfect. We need to catch that thing earlier at all. Now, there was another possibility I could have done. So I could have defeated the Mew to defeat a legendary Pokemon. But legendary Pokemon is one of those goals that I can get alternate paths to. I could defeat one of the roamers. And since defeat a level 40 is on the card, that's probably how we do it if we don't run into a legendary naturally. So there's a little more value in catching the Mew to win the contest than there would have been defeating the Mew for that one goal. So once I go to Tin Tower, whatever replaces the Suicune, not only is that a level 40, but that also counts as a alternate path for defeat a legendary Pokemon. So we can knock out 2 goals with one Pokemon that way. I'm gonna check these TMs real quick. Well, they're bad. While I'm in the menu, I'm gonna go ahead and teach this. Sweet Scent is probably like the most valuable move in the game. And probably for not the reason that you might think. So, Sweet Scent produces an encounter at will, as long as you're on a tile that can produce an encounter. So if I were to go into grass right now and use Sweet Scent, then we would get an encounter. It's pretty nice, it's pretty handy. To review the 7 different types of berry, I did get that a lot earlier than normal. So typically that's not a goal that you get for a while, but because of the randomization of items, we did pick up a couple of early berries. So we got a Poison Cure berry, we got a Standard berry, we got a Bitter berry, we got a Gold berry, which is one that you don't normally get. We got a Paralyzed Cure berry, we have a Burnt berry, which that isn't usually accessible for another 30 minutes or so, and then we just picked up that Ice berry. So that is our 7 berries. As long as I don't accidentally use one, then we should be good, which is why I typically deposit them. I probably should have done that, but that's okay. Now, for a little while, we're basically just going to be going through a little bit of plot advancement. Typically, not counting Rising Badge being on the card right now, obviously, typically the most plot advancement you'll see is you'll see people go all the way to Chuck's gym to get Fly, because having Fly is really, really nice. You can skip Fly in certain cases, but you have to have some really good luck and a really good path planned out, and you need everything to line up just right. But typically, you'll see people go all the way to the 5th gym so you can unlock Fly. Then go to the Shiny, which the Shiny Gyarados is always a Shiny, but it just kind of changes what the Pokemon is. So you can see, like, the Shiny Mew, for example. And then after that, that's typically when people will do what we call the cleanup phase, where you just kind of check out your information, see what's available, and just try to finish out from there. In our case, I would really prefer not to do Rising Badge. Simply because Rising Badge is a difficult goal to get. You have to go through the last gym in Johto, and those trainers hurt. Usually by the time you have access to that gym, you're still very under-leveled. We don't do the rocket sequences, other than Slowpoke Well, because that's just hard-coded in. So you actually miss out on a ton of experience, even though you're cutting out a lot of really, really slow and boring gameplay because you're extremely over-leveled. There are so many Pokemon that you fight that you actually get even more over-leveled and you're better prepared for the rest of the game. But since we don't get that experience, and since it would obviously take a lot of time investment to make up that experience, we typically try to forego that goal. So I'm gonna hope that whatever the Pseudo-Widow randomized to is something that doesn't die to a tri-attack. Granted, it's small percentages we're dealing with here. So it's burn, paralyze, poison. With tri-attack, I can burn or paralyze. So I need a 10% chance to happen. Followed by, you know, basically 2 and 3 to get the status that we need from there. This is something that can survive, so we can kind of work with this. I did save, just in case. Takes a lot more damage than I'd want it to, though. Let me double check if I happen to have any move, anything. There might be something that I caught, but in terms of time investment, it's probably better to just go for the percentage play here. So you're going to see a lot of resets until we get a paralyze or a burn, which is a little unfortunate, but what can you do? You know what you can do?
Talk about some cool things?
Talk about some cool things.
Like, what is going on right now. For anyone just tuning in, this is Showrunner Showcase. This happens on the first Saturday of every month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where all the different showrunners for the various content, Hotfix content on GDQ will do runs of the games that they play. So you might have seen me earlier doing some Tetris, and Keys doing some Pokemon right now. Every month we'll have different showrunners showing off all the various games that they run. And then on Monday we're going to be having Shovel Knight. That's going to be a community spotlight showcasing, I believe, 5 or 6 different Shovel Knight runs. There are so many characters that have come out through expansions in Shovel Knight, so be sure to check that out at 8 p.m. on Monday. Then also, we have Frame Fatales coming up on February 23rd, so you can check out the schedule on the GamesDoneQuick.com website, as well as additional information on that. And Yeah, Keys, do you actually want to talk about the first step? Because you've had some really exciting races with Hobbs recently, and
Yeah.
you've got some very close races, some unfortunate power outages, and a bunch of stuff happening.
Yeah, so first step is another show that's oh, it has self-destruct. Oh, this is horrible. All right, I'm gonna turn around and see if I caught something that could do something, because that just made my life worse. But anyway, yeah, so the first step is a show that both myself and Richard are involved in. It's me and Jay Hobbs as hosts, and the cool thing about that show is we try to show you that if you want to pick up speedrunning, a lot of times it's really just as simple as picking up the game. All the games that Hobbs and I do are either games that we have never played before or games that we've played in the past, but it was so long ago that we basically have never played it before. What we'll do is we'll play the game on our own for about 8 hours. If we beat the game, then we just kind of end it there. But we play it on our own, off stream for about 8 hours. And then whatever we learned about the game, we will try to apply in what's called a semi-blind race. Semi-blind being we have seen the game and we have played a little bit of it, but we have no knowledge of the speedrun route. And that has led to a lot of really, really cool moments. Honestly, my favorite moments so far have been the people that have watched the show and come to us afterwards and told us that we helped inspire them to pick up speedrunning. That was quick. Should have done that to begin with. Apparently talking about the first step is how I get past this.
You're taking your first step into checking off that goal in the bottom row.
Heck
Congratulations,
yeah.
Keys.
We did it. But yeah, that is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. The game that we're doing next is
Ty the Tasmanian Tiger.
Tasmanian, yeah. I was about to say Tasmanian Devil. Kind of hesitated with that one a little bit. Oh, okay, sure. Good movement. So now we're going to clear out the Kimono Girls, because this will get us Surf, and we'll need Surf to advance. I did mention before that there are very rare cases you can skip Fly. There are even rarer cases where you can skip Surf. I think I've done several thousand Crystal Randomizor Cinco bingos. Like, that's not even an exaggerated number. I think out of those several thousand, I've only ever had one time where I could have possibly skipped Surf to finish. And then I've had a handful of times where I could skip Fly. But typically you want to get those HMs just because it's going to open up a lot of the world. You're probably not ever going to see Kanto in these races. As mentioned before, like, our plot progression gets pretty slowed down after the shiny Pokemon. There's enough going on in Johto to where 99 times out of 100 a race will end in Johto. There is the rare case where you don't have enough information and you do go to Kanto, but that is not going to happen here. I can guarantee it. That is something I cannot guarantee. Yeah, pretty simple sequence here. Oh, that's not cool. Yeah, pretty simple sequence. Would you stop? Beat the 5 trainers, win a fabulous prize. Something like the old man watches them dance every day or something, and then he was mesmerized by our fights, so he wanted to give us a Surf HM, I think. I don't know. I don't know how that goes. It's kind of weird. Now, the nice thing about Surf is it is a 95 power, 100% accurate move. Water type, obviously. We're actually going to teach it over Ancient Power because Porygon 2 is more of a special attacker to begin with, and even though we have a really fantastic physical moveset, our rock coverage isn't really needed. Whereas the Surf coverage will allow us to hit rock types a little more effectively than we would if we were doing high jump kick. I think things hadn't developed as much as they have nowadays with Pokemon. So because they're older Pokemon, they're pretty typical to what their type is. So like a rock type is going to be way more physically defensive than specially defensive. So Surf is going to hit them for a lot more damage. I am still picking up some random items here and there. Bright Powder's not worth clearing my inventory for. There are still items to pick up that could possibly be the Black Glasses. Black Glasses is a gifted item. It is a guaranteed item, but it is in Dark Cave, and specifically it's on the side of Dark Cave where you have to go to Blackthorn. So it is a little out of the way, but it is a guaranteed goal. So if we don't pick up Black Glasses, it's no big deal. Nice randomizer. Very, very good. Aww. This fight can be the bane of your existence. There are a lot of randomizers that kind of stall out here. Dynamic Punch Miss is very good. Dynamic Punch is a fighting move, so we are weak to it. It is only 50% accurate, which is funny. But then if it hits you, you're guaranteed to be confused. Probably because you're confused that you got hit by it. All right, buddy. So we were just at the center, but I think I'm gonna do it again for, well, I wish I taught Surf already. I'm gonna do it again for a couple of reasons. One, we did run out of bag space, and I do have berries I want to deposit. That way I don't accidentally use them. Two, just to kind of recover our PP. I wouldn't normally go to the center so quickly after just using it. And I would normally try to optimize it by like using any items that I have. But I'd rather save those items for later on the off chance that we do Rising Badge. Like, I believe we have like a max ether or something. Aww. Alright, so the Raikou is Totodile, the Entei was Ladybug, and the Suicune is a Venomoth. So nothing that we need. Also, Venomoth kind of makes me a little sad. Mainly because it's not a hard Pokemon to take out, but the Venomoth is the Suicune. So that Venomoth is going to fulfill both the defeat a level 40 Pokemon and defeat a legendary Pokemon. If we do opt to do Rising Badge, then we could also defeat a level 40 Pokemon via Rising Badge, because Claire does have a level 40 in her party. Like I said before, I'm hoping we don't have to do that. So I'm going to deposit some items. Some of them are being deposited just because they don't sell for much. I need to clear my inventory. Some of them are because they're berries. I'm also going to deposit one of each of my Pokeballs, just in case. And now we're going to tackle Morty's Gym. Morty's Gym allows us to use Surf. So just having Surf, which I keep forgetting to teach, just having Surf isn't enough. We need the badges. Badges kind of lock when traded Pokemon obey you and when you can use HMs. Now, I have a question for you, Richard.
Yes, Keys.
So, let's say that, hypothetically, let's say that I was terrible at Tetris. But I was blown away by how well you did Tetris. Where can some people at home see some resources on how to improve their Tetris play?
So it's actually very interesting for a game like that. There are resources that you can check out, but really it is pattern recognition, and the more you play, the more that'll help you out. That's kind of how I improved, is I just kept playing, and with that you just get experience as to how to place pieces. You understand how pieces go together. There's some resources on T-spinning that I had learned for this technique called ST stacking. If you look up like a guide on that, you can kind of see how different colors of pieces go together, because colors are standardized now amongst pieces. So yeah, that's really it. Like, it's not something I, you know, actively run a lot. I mostly run Ori and the Blind Forest, and then I started learning Final Fantasy X, maybe against my own best judgment, but yeah. Yeah, Tetris is kind of like one of those, a lot shorter than those games, so...
So you must be pretty excited for March, huh?
Oh yeah. March 11th will be really nice. That is when Ori and the Will of the Wisps will come out.
I need to still play Ori. I haven't yet. Somehow, some way.
Yep, because on March 12th, the projected First Step episode.
Yes, yes. Nobody tell Hobbs we gave you that preview.
Nope. Didn't say that out loud.
Hobbs will yell at us, because Hobbs is a bully. It's true.
All right, so as we, you know, have passed around the hour mark here, Keys, how are you feeling about your Cinco bingos? Because it looks like you have Cero bingos right now, which is Spanish for zero.
Yeah, that's Spanish for zero. So that's actually pretty typical. The goal count is a tiny bit on the lower side. Like at the hour mark, you expect to see about anywhere between like 6 to 8 usually. But a lot of the goals come in very quick succession once you get Fly. Just because the map's opened up, and that's typically like your best time to start traveling and checking out other places. So the count might seem a little low, and the amount of bingos might seem alarming, but within the next 10-15 minutes, I will probably have 2 or 3 bingos, and then from there it's just, you know, developing the rest of the strategy. The cool thing about doing these bingos and just like randomizers in general is a lot of times there's a lot of on-the-fly thinking. I think that's one thing personally that is a little dangerous about speedrunning, is a lot of times you might get complacent in your knowledge of the game just because you're doing the same route over and over. Obviously, like, route developments will... Ooh, I'm equipping that right away. Obviously, route developments will make you, like, re-explore a game. But, like, for a game that the meta is the same for, you know, several months, if not several years, it's really easy to become complacent about your game. It comes down to how well can I do this route still. Whereas you don't really have a route with a randomizer, especially with something like a bingo where you have to go around and do off-the-cuff goals. And it's a really fun way to reimagine the game and re-enjoy the game. And there's a lot of like cool little variants that you can utilize with randomizer in general too. There's actually quite a few of us that have made a variant of Battleship that uses the Pokedex and you know, just a catch-em-all style of gameplay where we literally treat the game like a Battleship ripoff. It's a lot of fun.
It's a really interesting routing challenge. It's sort of like discovering, you know, like a new game when you have a randomizer, because you have the knowledge of like what's in the game, but you don't know like what's where, and it's similar to, you know, a new game that comes out where you're given all these tools, and then once you figure out what the tools are, you actually have to figure out how best to use them. It's got to be really cool.
Yeah, and Crystal was the game that I played the most as a kid. So it's always fun to find new ways to enjoy the game. And I've had a ton of people ask me if I get sick of playing Crystal, if I get sick of doing like randomizer challenges with it, and I really don't, because even though the core mechanic is always going to be the same, and you know my game knowledge for it is you know, not to brag, but you know, on the higher end of things, it's still fresh. Like there's always something different. There's always a different way that the game can punish you. There's always a different way that you can end a race. just a lot of fun in general, and it makes me happy because I really liked playing this game as a kid, and it's nice that there's a fresh way to enjoy playing it as an adult. What are you, friend? Oh. So I am still trying to keep track of movesets here, mainly because it would be really nice to see something that qualifies for non-TM, non-damaging, because that would give us column 3 as a possible bingo. To kind of give an update on that, right now we are looking at row 3, we're looking at column 4, and we are looking at top left to bottom right. So we are looking like 3 possible bingos. We could probably pull off own 7 different flying types. I think I've seen enough. So if we commit to doing 7 different flying types, we could also knock out call 1 in row 2, so we would have a path to 5 bingos. So this is definitely one that we can finish, but like I keep saying, I don't necessarily want to do Rising Badge. It's not that we're incapable of doing it. It's just it's a steep difficulty curve in comparison to everything, and this Porygon is actually underleveled right now. Typically when you're in this gym, you're around level 29 to 31, and we're level 27. Experience just hasn't lined up that well. Like, we've been fighting a lot of unevolved things, or even if they are evolved, like just things that aren't giving us too much experience. Now, even with the instant text, something you might see me do every now and again, and it's akin to regular Pokemon speedruns as well. That's awful. I do have a revive, right? I do. Okay, we'll roll with it. Something that's akin to like regular speedruns of the game. I'll hit something with a super effective move, and if I determine that I can proceed to kill it without using the super effective move, I'll swap to a different move. 1, for the sake of conserving the uses of that move, and 2, just to skip that it's super effective text. Obviously, it's not going to lose nearly the amount of time that it loses in a vanilla run because they don't have instant text and we do. But it's still one of those like tiny little optimizations you can do. Now we are 2 fights away from getting Fly. Immediately after we beat this gym, you're going to see me go north, and we're going to fight Yucine. I mentioned him earlier. He's the one that's kind of blocking us from doing the encounter Suicune on Route 42 goal. The interesting thing about Yucine is it doesn't matter if you win or lose that fight. He can body you entirely and you can wipe out, but the fight will be flagged as done and the Suicune will appear. So obviously I would prefer to not die, but if it comes down to that, no big deal. Speaking of dying, we were fine unless it crit, and it crit, and I don't think I have another revive. I do have a Sacred Ash, though. Would have rather waited to use that, but... So, Sacred Ash is a really cool item. You only see 1 in vanilla. You get it from Ho-Oh when you catch it. It's basically a mobile Pokemon Center, but you can't use it in battle, and then you can't use it unless you have a fainted Pokemon. But if you have a fainted Pokemon and you use it outside of battle, it restores everyone as if you were at a Pokemon Center. That's not good. Alright, it didn't explode. Very good. The AI would make it explode now, but we outsped it. AI is interesting in this game. Most of the AI that you run into with the fights that you do in a Cinco Bingo, they usually have not good AI. But then, like, the good AI in general is even questionable as is. Like the last trainer that had that Blossom, that trainer has random AI, so it randomly decided to explode. Meanwhile, Chuck, with that same Blossom, wouldn't have exploded unless it either had no other moves, if I was within range of dying to it, or if he was below, I can't remember if it's 25 or 33% health, but there is some logic to when they decide to go kablode. repel and teach fly here, just because immediately after this fight we're heading out. And immediately after this fight, it resets the cursor position in my menus, so it just makes more sense to do the menu now. Fun fact for those who are at home, Unknown has better stats than Kirlia. Completely random. Unknown's an interesting Pokemon in these randomizers. So, Unknown is not something you can encounter in the wild through traditional means unless you complete a puzzle in the Ruins of Alph. Ooh, that's good info. You can fish it up or headbutt it, but if you're like just in grass or dungeon ground or water or something like that, Unknown doesn't show up unless you complete puzzles. So even though we have a move like Sweet Scent that produces encounters, if you use Sweet Scent and you roll an Unknown, it'll just say that Sweet Scent fails. It's actually kind of funny. Now that's encountering the Suicune on 42, so there's that goal. I'm still checking some items here and there just in case it is black glasses, but I think at this point in time it's safe to give that up. We're going to go a little bit out of our way here. Couple of reasons. One, there's a guaranteed TM10 over here, and then two, there might be TM46 because there is a random TM on the ground. I've talked about like static TMs and random TMs, but I haven't really talked about the text of the goals. So one of the most frequently asked questions, besides, you know, what does Cinco mean, is if I have a TM that teaches the move, does that count as a goal? And the answer is no. So I specifically need TM10. Let's say I get TM9 and it teaches hidden power. That wouldn't qualify. So the only reason why we have the text for the move next to it is to remind people where that TM normally is. Now, I wonder if I run into a shiny Pokemon randomly. It is 1 in 8,001. Oh my goodness, it's a something that doesn't look any different. All right. Right. All right. We have one already, but he has a different move set, so I'm gonna catch him for the sake of seeing if he qualifies before non-TM non. What is the difference? It just looks pale. It looks like mustard now.
I mean, it already looked like that too.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong. The other one's like a Dijon mustard, and this one's just the traditional. Also, this is what allows us to skip the rocket hideout and the radio tower. So all the plot flags are locked behind all the items he's giving us. Now he has given us all these items, so now I no longer have to worry about doing that stuff. You are the farthest thing from 4 non-TM non-damaging. Alright, so you're going to see me stare at the Pokedex a little bit here while we look up information. Like I mentioned a few times, I write notes down, and it just kind of helps me plan my route out a little bit. Abra's in one good location. Abra helps us with 2 possible goals. We'll also see what Bellsprout is. Bellsprout's a no, because we can't access that right now. Dragonair is a trade poke that is really easy to get. Let's see. Krabby's another trade poke that is easy to get and everywhere. Where's Paris? Now I'm looking for very specific Pokemon right now. I could look up some flying types if I want to go after that goal, but that's one of those goals that like you typically just kind of chance into a little bit. Those aren't the greatest locations, but we can work with that. And then Sunflora is not anywhere. Okay, do we have Sunkern? We do. Okay. So if it's nowhere like that, then that either means it's in Kanto, which is something we don't necessarily have access to right now, or if it doesn't show up in the decks at all, it doesn't mean it's not here. So the randomizer logic makes it so everything has at least 2 locations. The dex, however, is kind of butt. So it doesn't tell you about fishing, headbutt, or rock smash. So if you have Kanto and Johto maps unlocked, and it says that there's no location, then it's either fishing, headbutt, rock smash, or it could be one of the static Pokemon. So not the greatest thing to happen. I'm going to deposit all that. I am going to go to... excuse me. I am going to go to Route 44 here. Just because there are 2 Pokemon that we'd want to find here. There's an Abra and a Paris. Typically, I'll start with water because it's easier to kind of spot check. All right, well, that was easy. There's Paris. And then I'm pretty sure you handily live there. Oh, not close. How about this? Better. I do have to buy more Pokeballs soon, but we should be fine until I fly again. Yeah, so water encounter slots, there's 3 of them. There's a 60%. Wow, okay. Well, we don't have to go into the grass. 60%, 30%, and 10%. I don't know if I have a way to weaken you, actually. I'm going to throw a couple of YOLO balls. But yeah, we don't necessarily have a reason to go into the grass. So I'm most likely not going to do that. But there's a fun little thing. So this has absolutely nothing to do with proper logic or anything. But certain people have their preferences on where they like to go if they have no information on a goal, or if they're trying to metagame something. I really like this route personally, just because my buddy Mizzlesticks, every time we ever race, if there's something that's on the card and if he has a chance of beating me, I'll find something on this route, and it upsets him every time. Not that I like my friend being upset, but I think in honor of him, I'm gonna give it a good college try and check it out a little bit and see if I chance into something. And if I do, then haha. If I don't, then that's karma, well deserved. So that would have been helpful earlier, but we already completed the baby's goal. I'm going to assume this is the 20% since it keeps showing up. The absolute best thing for us to find right now would be Dunsparce, Wobbuffet, or Girafarig. Just because that helps us avoid Rising Badge, which saves us a ton of time. That helps us get row 1 and call 5. It can also help us get BLTR, bottom left, top right, but that involves Rising Badge, and like I keep saying, I really don't want to do Rising Badge. No. Well... So this isn't necessarily shaping up, but we've only seen 2 encounter slots. If we saw a 3rd one, I was only half paying attention to it. Alright! Guess who's picking on Mizzlesticks? No information on this, but here it is. Shoutouts to you, buddy. God, I love this route. This game's easy. So I could fish up another Abra because that would be a trade poke. I'm choosing not to repel here just in case I run into it. I do. So the plan here is going to be... We're going to evolve one of the Abras so we can get Kadabra. And then we're also going to trade the other one. So we can get those goals. How do I not get... This doesn't kill, does it? I mean, it's super effective, but like... very good. Dunsparce is bad. Alright, so things are really shaping up. Trying to think how I want to path from here. We're in really good position to finish within the next, like, 10-15 minutes, though. So that's always good. Hopefully my movement isn't bad here either. There's a really cool movement thing you can do in here. It's not the most difficult thing to do. Gen 2 is kind of a laggy game, though, so movement can be difficult in certain areas. There's something that we call Swag Boulder. It's a lot cooler in Gen 1 because it's a completely different thing. I'll see if I can pull it off here. Alright, we got it. Heck yeah. Like, that's not like super difficult to do, but it's always mega satisfying to pull off. I'm very glad that I was able to pull it off here. So in just a sec, I'm going to check this TM just in case. We don't really need the TM anymore. We can complete the card without it, but it's right there, so might as well take the little bit of time to check it out. I'm going to go ahead and head to the center real quick. Then we're going to go pick up black glasses. Then we are going to defeat the black belt trainer, which the class name is going to be randomized, so you're not going to think it's a black belt, but I assure you that's what we want. And then in the middle of that fight, you're going to see me unstar some goals and then restar them, because at this point in time, because I know I can finish, I'm going to go ahead and just list what my route is going to be from here. And we've accomplished a decent amount of stuff too, so I'm going to change my box here. The game saves when you change box. Really not much to it. We're also going to... because I don't know if we need to fly back there yet. So we have a Pokeball, we have a Great Ball, we have a Lure Ball, we have an Ultra Ball, and did I get another one? Actually, no, I need to go back, so I'm going to unmark that because I'm a dummy-dumb. I think we got an Ultra earlier. No, we got a Great on the ground. I don't know, what did we get? We only have 4. Alright, there's our black glasses. And this is why I bought so many escape ropes. The end game, you tend to escape rope a lot. Now we're going to fight the trainer that replaced the black belt for the Call Black Belt goal. Gen 2 introduced the phone book, and certain trainers, after you beat them, if you talk to them again, they give you their number. This marks off defeat a legendary Pokemon too. That's neat. That's convenient. Everything's just coming up perfect all of a sudden. Go team. Let's see, what do I want to do for a path? Could do that. Alright, so I'm going to take just a moment here. So I don't want to do anything that involves Rising Badge. So Call 4 is one we can do, so I'm going to remove that. So I'm going to unstar everything real quick. And you're going to see me restar things while this trade is going off. I don't know how many goals we're going to waste in the end. Hopefully not too many. Traded the higher level Abra just because Abra evolves at 16. And so the level 21 is going to be a little easier. Not by terribly much. It's not a significant difference. So we're going to go for row 1. We're going to go for row 3. We're going to go for row 4. We're going to go for call 5, which we're almost done with. Actually, we are done with because I forgot to mark that. And we're going to go with TLBR. So we actually don't need the 5 different types of Pokeballs in this case. We don't need 7 different types of berries, and we don't need Burn, Paralyze, or Poison instead of Widow, which makes me kind of sad because we spent a while on that one, but that's okay. That's funny. All right, since I didn't call the black belt, the black belt called me first. I do not get the goal in that case, but that is kind of funny. While I'm here, I'm going to buy some Pokeballs, buy a couple of extra escape ropes just in case there's a lot of dungeon hopping. See, I was going to call the black belt literally immediately after I walked out of here, but then he was very impatient. Now, since we don't have Max Phone Book as a goal for this card, I actually delete the number. That way he doesn't call me again. You do not call. What are you? You were Croconaut, right? Croconaut is something that can sometimes be in the card. So we're going to fly to Violet for a couple of reasons. TM50's here, so we'll get that goal out of the way. And then we're also going to pick up the experience share. That way it's easier to train up the Abra. My movement is butts right now. So what I'm doing right now is, like, for the most part, a more consistent path. There is a bit of a faster path I could do if I take some chance on Rising Badge and if I do some catches. Like a couple more catches. But I want to finish this out. So for the sake of consistency, I'm just going to go with the consistent route. That is not where I meant to fly. So we're going to go ahead and knock out this gym for our 6th badge because it's the fastest gym for us to do now. It's a total of 4 Pokemon in 2 fights. Nothing too bad. I don't know if I put the experience... I did. Okay, good. And then this will for sure give us a level for the Abra, so it evolves into Kadabra. So we'll get that goal out of the way. Also, we choose to fight her because if you go up the left side, Douglas, that rotator, hits you no matter what. So he has 3 Pokemon. So we technically fight an optional, so we avoid a technical not optional, I guess. We smooth our way in. We'll just put it that way. But yeah, so Claire's gym has a bunch of mid to high level 30 Pokemon. And then Claire herself has 3 37s and a 40. We are level 30 right now. We could we could technically use X items and pull that off. But that would still require a lot of luck and a lot of healing items and would probably just be overall slower. All right, Hyper Beam is actually fantastic. Because of Hyper Beam, he loses a turn. Because he lost that turn, that was his ace, and typically when the ace is 50% or lower health, the AI considers healing up to a certain percentage where they're guaranteed to heal. Because they used Hyper Beam, they lost their turn, so they were incapable of healing, so that saved us a little bit of time. So that gives us our Kadabra. That gives us our 6th badge. I also forgot to mark that earlier. I thought I clicked on it, but it might not have registered the click. Because we did trade that Abra for the Croconaut. We'll go to the center and heal real quick. We're going to remove the experience share from the Kadabra, excuse me. Not like it really matters right now, but just in case we find like a really good level Meryl and we're struggling to find a Quagsire. we can always do that. I'm going to withdraw my Clefairy from the other box real quick, because it is a normal type, and it'll help us fulfill that 4 moves sharing its type. Because I believe it has 1 normal move already, and we have a bunch of HM. Because Mind Reader, for some reason, is a normal move. That strikes me as a psychic move, personally, but... Alright, so there's 4 moves sharing its type. I'm going to deposit that just because I don't like being cluttered. So now comes a little bit of an interesting conundrum here. So I'm going to look for the QuagSire first, on the off chance that I run into like an Execute and an Executor, or even a Wooper. QuagSire is in not the greatest locations, and then Sunkern, we can evolve into Sunflora, but that's in Dark Cave, and Dark Cave also isn't ideal. So we're going to do what I like to call spot checking, where I don't necessarily check every possible slot, but we do a reasonable amount. So I try to look for like 2 in a water and then like 4 or 5 on the ground. So it doesn't look like this is the place to be, so we're going to check the ground encounters. I'm also going to pick up the TM here. On the off chance that TM is TM 46, we can skip defeating the 40, I believe. No. Yes. Yes, we can skip that. Which that would be a little faster. But for the time being, this is pretty much how cleanup tends to go. This is usually the end of the race, where you'll see people trying to generate the encounter that they need, eventually complain that they're not seeing the encounters they want to see, yada yada yada. We are getting a little bit unlucky right now, but nothing egregious. I think we only saw 3, maybe 4 encounter slots. But I'm going to go ahead and move on. We can always turn around, no big deal. This is a flying type, and 7 different flying type is on the card. And we do have 2 right now, but optimally speaking, it is faster to not go for that right now. We would need 5 more. And that is extra time to catch them and whatnot. While the game's just giving me a ton of flying types because it wants me to look wrong. Thanks game. I'm also at a point right now where, now that I'm thinking about catches, I'm gonna go ahead and teach False Swipe. We'll do it over high jump kick. So, as mentioned before, we have minimum catch rate turned on to maximum. So once something's at 1/3 of their health or lower, it's a guaranteed catch. So if I knock it down to 1 health, it's going to be a guaranteed catch no matter what. So in that regard, I may consider catching flying types if I see them. Because if we defer to flying types instead, then we could skip Sunflora Executor, pick up our 5th ball, which we can still do that right now. And then we just go with column 1 instead of column... No, not column. Column 1 instead of... Oh, we found a QuagSire anyway. Never mind. Irrelevant. Go me. All right, now on the off chance that you... Nope, you have all attacking moves. That's something else you could do if you were strapped for time. You could catch Pokemon. Like in my case right now, I could keep catching Pokemon in hopes that something fulfills 4 non-TM, non-damaging. But like I said, I'm just going to go with the path that I know I can do, because I might waste more time going for something that I'm unsure of. Going back here, I'm going to surf a little bit here because there is a TM that's over here. and it could be TM46. But this is also where... Oh, okay. This is where Sunkern can be, and we got it. Okay, focus energy. I wonder if you have non-TM, non-damaging. We shall see. Hopefully. So that would save us some time. Nope! Why would you? Now, well, while we're here, I'm gonna grab the TM real quick, just in case. It is not. Alright, so some of this I could have done a little cleaner in terms of being optimal. Like, we were just at Goldenrod. I should have bought my Sunstone while I was there. But we're gonna fly back here, get the Sunstone. It's gonna evolve us into Sunflora. And then we have 4 more fights, and then we are done. So this is one nice thing about the version of Crystal that I'm using is it's not the randomizer, it's the actual game itself. We have better marts on, so I can just buy Sunstones. I can buy any stone. So that's gonna be our Sunflora. Trying to learn Milk Drink. Alright, that doesn't really mean much, but... So there's a guaranteed level 40 Pokemon we can beat that isn't Claire's gym, and that isn't us trying to chance into the roamers. Though that would be a funny way to finish. I'm gonna do that. Actually, that's the last thing I need to do. So I'm depositing everything for a couple of reasons here. If the AI has like Whirlwind or Waste. Also, if these next 3 fights are hard, it's a lot slower to die with multiple Pokemon than it is with one. So we're gonna defeat the 3 sages here at Tin Tower, and then it'll unlock Tin Tower itself, and then there's a level 40 that we can beat, and then we are done. So our bingos in that case would be row 1, row 3, row 4, column 5, and top left, bottom right. Not the nicest looking bingo, but we will be done. Not a bad start. Porygon 2 is a bulky poke, so not too far off here. And the nice thing about that is a good point, Railkin. The nice thing about this bingo that we're about to finish is there are only 2 wasted goals, and one of them really wasn't that much of a waste. So different types of berries we really didn't go out of our way for. The only wasted goal that really kind of stinks is the Burn, Paralyzer, Poison, Pseudo Widow. But the thing about wasted goals is more often than not, when you waste a goal, you don't know it's going to be a waste until towards the end. Trying to learn Splash. Alright, buddy. But yeah, so out of all the goals that we're not doing, the only 2 goals that we weren't for sure on were TM46 and 4 non-TM, non-damaging moves. TM46, I didn't check all the random TMs, but that could be waterfall locked, which means you'd have to beat Claire, and that could also mean that it's in Kanto as well, which is also waterfall locked. And then 4 non-TM, non-damaging is always just kind of a crapshoot. As mentioned toward the beginning of this run, Flash qualifies for that because it's an HM, not a TM. So you are usually just looking for something with 3 non-TM, non-damaging moves, and then you just teach Flash. However, we never found anything, and it seemed like everything we were catching had 3 moves, like 3 usable moves. Now, for the sake of safety, we are going to heal, and I am going to save. If this poke faints us, then we can't refight it. So at that point in time, I'd either have to look for a roamer, do Claire, or climb Tin Tower and fight the level 60. And I don't know if you knew this, Richard, but 60 is oftentimes bigger than 40. And I don't want to fight that.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, now I wish I had one extra poke. Okay, so unfortunately, that doesn't count as a defeat because I faint as well. And if there's a draw, you lose. So that was really rude. I planned for one worst case scenario and not the other, so please don't do that again. Why would you? No. All right, so hear me out. I was almost done. All right, this is what we're gonna do, since the game wants to do this to me. We're going to I guarantee you the moment I do this, he's never gonna explode again. But we're gonna pick up a second poke. You, red. We'll go with red. And now if it blows up on us, then we win. That's so... Of all the things, man. Oh my goodness. Of all the things. Oops. So yeah, typically an average run of this is anywhere between an hour and a half to 145. This could be slightly over average, but considering how bad of a start we had, this really wasn't too terrible.
But underestimate.
Indeed. Unless this Venomoth somehow, like, explodes both of my pokes. Which is not possible, but I wouldn't put it past the game. Oh, that's so rude! I told you this would happen. Right, okay, whatever. Time will be as soon as I hit the done button, which is in the menu. Which will be after I go through all this text. And time. So not too terrible. Like I said, rough beginning. But overall, pretty standard. I did get lucky and chance into something. But other than that, everything was pretty solid. So to review, we got row 1, we got row 3, we got row 4, we got call 5, and we got TLBR. Our only wasted goals were 7 different types of berries and burn, paralyze, or poison Pseudo Widow. We did not know those would be wasted, so that's okay. But yeah, this was randomized Cinco Bingo. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. It's probably the thing that I do the most nowadays. You know, outside of other terrible meme Pokemon things, and then all the stuff I've been doing with GDQ lately. And it's really fun. It's really easy to get into. The community has grown really, really large. There are a couple of Discords for this. There is the specific Crystal Randomizer Cinco Bingo Discord. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the link to it. I believe I have a command in my chat for it. And speaking of my chat and my community, I have a ton of people within my community that do bingos just about every day as well. And we have a little bingo channel too. So there's 2 really good places to not only learn how to do this and get a bunch of really great resources, but also just people of all different skill levels that are totally willing to play basically almost 24/7. There's so many different people all over the world that are doing this now, and so many different time zones that you're almost guaranteed to find at least one other person who wants to race with you. And then, like I said, I do this a lot on my stream, so if you want to see this in a race format, because I don't typically do it solo, but if you want to see it in a race format, kind of see more of how the meta and the strategy develops and whatnot, you could always swing by. I get a little more upset at the bad luck on my stream, but you know.
You did great, Keys.
Thanks.
And just a couple quick announcements before we sign out for the evening or afternoon in Keys' case. We have on Monday the Community Spotlight going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to check that out. We have Frame Fatales starting at the end of this month, February 23rd. And again, thank you everyone for watching. Hotfix is possible with your continued support. If anyone has a Twitch Prime sub or has a sub or has been here for watching the ads, it really helps out a lot. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great night.
Bye.